Hi, I'm Bill Corcoran Jr., and I'm your host for the On the Stacks podcast. Today, I'm chatting with Bob Kalinowski, reporter at the Citizen's Voice. What's up, podcast episode 30? Welcome to the On the Stacks podcast. Bob, how are you?
I'm doing well today. Thanks, Bill. I'm honored to be 30 for 30.
Yeah, 30. We are. We're going 30 for 30 today. It's like the 30th birthday of the podcast, and really excited to have you on today. So why don't we start a little bit tell me about your background.
About my background? I was born and raised in Nanticoke, Luzerne County here, and I went to Nanticoke High School. And since you probably gave a little intro about all of my success in life, it wasn't always planned that way, and or the direction especially wasn't. I was kind of a very came from a tough background, tough family life, tough household.
How so?
Just parental issues, every kind of issue that comes up in that I don't usually like to talk about. So I'm not going to go into specifics.
That's okay.
But I'm kind of proud of myself of where I'm at. So, but I never thought I'd get to where I am right now. I didn't really have a lot of direction growing up. So, just a lot of fate, a lot of good friends, a lot of good family that supported me along the way to help me do everything I have done.
That's cool. So you originally, before getting into reporting, you went into the military.
Well, I went to after Nanticoke High School, which I had no clue what the hell I wanted to do in while I was in high school, because besides party in the woods every weekend and then party more in college. So that was kind of the only plan I had. So I had no idea what the hell I wanted to do when you're in high school. You have to pick a major, right? And I used to be like a big NASCAR fan. And just like I said, fate intervened sometimes. And one of my friends, we were going to a Nanticoke basketball game. His aunt was driving us and she says, I do PR for NASCAR. I'm like, oh, I love NASCAR. That's awesome. I want to go to school for PR. So like King's had a communications program. So I went to school for communications at King's. So I still didn't know what the hell I wanted to do while I was doing communications at King's, not knowing it's like the least paying profession on earth besides social work. and even my senior year, I had no clue. But one of my friends was interning at the Citizen's Voice. And at that time, I guess the industry was still so solid that they paid interns $25 a day. So I'm like, I'm interning there, making an extra $75 of booze money a week. And I was working my ass off at Red Lobster at the time, bartending too, but I still didn't know what I wanted to do. And yes. A teacher once took me to West Point. Let me even back that up. I was in college during 9/11, and I used to be a big sports fan, listen to Howard Stern every day. And one day I'm driving to college and I'm like, why isn't Howard Stern on the radio? It was a little late in the day, one of my classes. And Peter Jennings was on the radio talking about something crumbling. And I'm like, then he says something about the second tower is falling to the ground. And I'm like, what the beep? And 9/11 just had a profound effect on my life. So I became a big fan of the military. I immediately didn't care about sports anymore. I became a news and politics junkie, but and loved America, loved the military. So yeah, I wanted to go in the military right after to college, to officer candidate school, and I probably would have went to the Iraq War, honestly, if I did, because you're young and dumb, and what do they say, piss and vinegar, and you want to defend your country, or at least you think you are, and so yeah, I did sign up for officer candidate school right after college, and I was trained my ass off to get in. I did get in. I was supposed to go to the Navy officer candidate school, I believe in early 2005, and then I had a wrist injury doing all the push-ups, and I just ended up at the newspaper, and I'm still here.
Nice. So back to your internship, at the paper is kind of what really, besides 9/11, but that kind of really what got you interested in the newspaper.
In being a writer.
Were you always a writer growing up?
No, I never. I sucked as soon as I came to King's. Because I told you I did a jack shit at Nanticoke. That was our requirement. To get through. So I don't think. Sorry, all my former teachers, even though I love a lot of them, and some of them are my biggest mentors in life. But they helped raise me more so than they helped teach me. And so I was never a good writer, no. But I had some really good writing teachers and good mentors at King's as soon as I got there. And I learned how to become a good writer. And then, the internship at the Citizen's Voice helped me more be like a news writer, because there's a big difference between, different varieties of writing.
Yeah. So then you got hired as a full-time news reporter for the Citizen's Voice. And go ahead.
Let me tell you a funny story. So my final year of college, my friend Jared, the guy who told me the year before that he was doing the internship at the Citizen's Voice, he was doing another internship with me. So they were very loyal at the time, and a job opening happened like our last week of college. And they interviewed both of us, and they gave him the job. So they were sending me off to Towanda. That's our sister paper at the time in Towanda, the Daily Review. And one of the editors there goes, you don't want to go to Towanda. All that's there is rocks, rattlesnakes, and Republicans. So,
and what year was this?
2003.
Okay.
And if I did go to Towanda, probably back then, I probably would have married a farmer's daughter and been rich on the gas fields right now.
Shit.
Now the gas fields are tanking right now, but I probably would have. I still would have the farmer's daughter though, right?
Yeah.
But so what happens is they gave my buddy the job. Then he decides his girlfriend wants to move to Ohio. So the guy who told me you don't want to go to Towanda, there's only rocks, rattlesnakes, and Republicans. After I already got hired for the job and they were waiting to give me the job, he calls the editor up. He goes, Kalinowski's not coming. He's sticking with us. That causes a lot of friction in the same company, right? But
yeah.
It was the best decision that ever happened to me, though.
So how'd you get started? What did you start doing? What did you start writing about?
I think my first what the hell was my first article? One of them was, I think, it was just a little of everything. And when
no specific topic, really.
Everything,
okay.
Everything. So when I was in college, your teachers were in the media business, and I thought, even if I interning at the Citizen's Voice, I'm like, I am way too big time for this little town, this little newspaper. I'm going to be the biggest media star in world history, or at least try to be. And so I did an internship at ABC News Radio in Manhattan. But my teacher before I went, one of my best teachers, was like, you're going to go there and do nothing. They're not going to let you touch a thing. You're just going to sit there and watch all day. So I go there. And she was right. All you do is you get to meet celebrities in the green room, but actually journalism experience. I still enjoyed my time there. And then
I was going to say, did you learn anything from it at least?
Not really, besides being there for Good Morning America, watching it, being there behind the scenes at World News Tonight, watching it, but didn't get to do anything. Then my internship at the Citizen's Voice, the first day, it's like, here we go, write a story.
Start writing.
And I think some of the first ones were I think I wrote about the astronomers worried about light pollution, local ones, like some weird people that, I don't know. I think, I know one of my stories was when the Eagles were going to be in the Super Bowl. The one restaurant promised to make green wings and they finally made it. So he had to make green wings. So everything. They gave me some immense responsibility right from the beginning at The Voice as an intern and as a reporter.
So they kind of threw you to the wolves, but I mean, obviously, you kind of found your way. You learned a lot. You became a great writer. I mean, you are a great writer, and
thank you.
You've had a lot of success along the years. You've been there how many years?
It was 17 years, I believe, in May.
Okay.
But my first job, the one instead of going to Towanda, worked at the Citizen's Voice. Everyone gets their start writing the obituaries at the paper. Okay. So you get your start writing the obituaries. I'm like, I just went to college for this. And I didn't get hired at a major media company. Now I'm writing obituaries, and I go, that's another reason why I said I'm going to the military.
I'm done writing obituaries.
But luckily after a couple of months, a reporter job opened, and then because they'd let me write a couple stories once here and there when I was writing obituaries. So they finally gave me my big break.
So then a position opened up, and you kind of just ran with it.
Yeah, I was like the police reporter for about 10 years. So covered everything from murders to, stabbings, shootings, fires. There's nothing. I mean, you see the fire trucks and the fire trucks racing the scenes and, they have adrenaline going, but there's reporters that are also following those down fire trucks and the adrenaline's going too. So there's a lot of cool experiences I've had doing that, like going to, crime scenes and
So tell me, what have been some of the highlights of your career that you're most proud of?
Well, it was actually only a couple years ago. They gave me almost the entire year to do a big project on World War II veterans. Since I didn't go to the military, I kind of made it a point to be the advocate for veterans and write about veterans. So I did while we had in their waning years of life, I wanted to document a lot of their stories. So I interviewed 21 World War II veterans over the course of almost that year. And then I made a 15-minute documentary from those interviews. And we showed it at King's College during a special screening for those veterans. It was a special 48-page section on Veterans Day that year. And then on Veterans Day that year, the day that the section ran, World News Tonight with David Muir, the last 30 seconds of his show that day was, I had those 17 of those 21 meet the one day to sing "God Bless America" at the Kingston Armory, and they ran that on the end of the show, to end the broadcast on Veterans Day, 2015, I believe.
Wow, that's really cool. So was that the first time that any of your work has made it to the national news?
To that degree, because sometimes the Associated Press will pick something up and it'll end up on a website, but nothing that was that, awe-inspiring. That I could remember right now.
Yeah,
I don't think so.
Yeah. So what else? So back in 2018, I was going to say the Hugo. Yeah, that was my next one. So you covered the Hugo Zielinski murder trials. Tell me about it.
Well, first they found. For the people online, like I say on my show.
Yeah.
Hugo was arrested. Hugo was arrested like my first week working at the paper. They found a bunch of bodies
on his property.
5 bodies. But they split it up into 2 different murder charges because it literally was 2 different murder cases. But after they found the bodies, they arrested him on a different crime for a robbery. They didn't charge him with murder immediately. And I'm working at the paper. I believe it was like my first week as a full-time writer. And instead of studying to be a good journalist, I was out at the bar. And someone calls the bar and says, Hugo Zielinski escaped from the goddamn prison. And the most infamous photo one of the most infamous photos in world history happens. Then that night, you see the guy escaped from the 6th floor of the prison using bed sheets. He tied bed sheets together and escaped from the prison. So I didn't believe the people at first, but then, so that's a little backstory on Hugo. So his first murder trial, I guess they thought they had the strongest case first. Maybe that's why they tried that one. And it ends up, he's acquitted. So I skipped through the whole trial. It was a weeks-long affair. But he's acquitted of murder, and they immediately rearrest him on the second set of murder trial. And it was such a long, long journey, like 7 or 8 years till they finally had the second trial. At that time, I was dealing with this major herniated disc in my back, so it was like a struggle to type in the courtroom. But we got through it, and this time he was convicted of first-degree murder, and now he's serving life in prison. But he actually, a week before that second murder trial started, he sent me a Christmas card.
Really?
Well, it was like not handwritten. He typed it out, and it looked like a legal document.
Okay.
It looked like literally a legal document. And he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing. And it said, "Here is a legally non-binding something like holiday solstice, blah blah blah, like make it non-offensive type card." And he's like, and then at the end he's like, "I know you're just going to manage to be my pain in my ass the next 2 months, but Merry Christmas." Or something like that.
Interesting. So he sent you a Christmas card. Mm-hmm. That's probably kind of weird, right?
Well, if you're on the good side of a mass murder, it's better than being on the bad one.
I guess so. So I guess you must have been on the good side. You got a card. I mean, I'd hate to see what he sent to the people he didn't like.
I know,
right?
Well, for a guy who's locked up in the hole 24 hours a day, he's a ham in front of the media. He loves the spotlight.
So what happened? So I know, but I forget. So he was convicted, right?
Yeah, he was convicted at the second trial and sentenced to life in prison.
Life in prison.
Mm-hmm.
Did you get any more Christmas cards from him?
Not since, no.
I guess he didn't like the way it went.
Nope.
So, maybe another couple highlights. So in 2018, you covered President Trump came and you were part of the press pool in 2018, right? What was that experience like?
Well, they ask you to come to the airport just like any other reporter. Every other reporter is invited, but a couple people ahead of time are pre-selected to join the motorcade and go in.
So how'd you get selected?
They just randomly try to, every time they come in, mix it up. I mean, not like the president comes all the time, but they just, I think I developed a relationship with one of the White House press people by covering the Opioid Summit. I think he had a couple months before that. I think that's what it was.
Okay.
Yeah. So I went down to the Opioid Summit that they had at the White House. I mean, that was a highlight more so to be at the White House and be in that White House press briefing room where that was even. I'll get back to the motorcade, but going to the White House was even more.
Tell me about the White House story.
So I walk in there and there's all the national media and to be honest, like the press room isn't like you think it's probably the most glamorous studio. So it's like 100 years old, so it's a little dumpy.
So it's not as cool as it looks on TV.
Like some of those chairs have like rips in them and stuff. Yeah, they don't. So yeah, but then all the national media is there, and you're like tiptoeing towards that podium that Sarah Sanders sits at, and even Trump stands at, and even Trump has before. And I'm like trying to take my selfie with just the podium behind me, and everyone does it. Someone grabs my phone and says, "Get behind that podium."
Yeah.
So that was really cool.
Cool. So what else? I mean, what else?
I was wearing a really stupid tie that day that an ex-girlfriend gave me. So I wish I was wearing my red, white, and blue tie.
Why was it so stupid?
It was just purple, but it blended perfectly with the thing in the back. So maybe it wasn't that stupid, but I wore it for her because I was still dating her at the time.
Okay.
And then I wish I was wearing the red, white, and blue because that's my franchise.
It is.
Okay, back to the motorcade. So I got invited, and Andy Mihalchik from WBRE tells me he's also going to be in the motorcade. So, I don't even know what that really means, but I know it's, cool.
And this was your first time?
Absolutely. I mean, he does not hear a lot. So I think the president was coming to the arena to do a little rally and also in support of Congressman Barletta's election to the Senate, which was unsuccessful. So basically, as soon as Air Force One lands, it's like military precision, but obviously Air Force One, it's military. Yeah. But all the White House Secret Service people, it's all military precision. So she's like, all right, let's go. And then you start hoofing it towards the plane. So then all you see is the back of Air Force One open up, and the press are coming down like cattle, like running to get to their cars, the national press. And then I was doing Facebook Live, so it's always harder to like kind of process everything when you're trying to do something like that. But I was like narrating it too, and then I felt like I was at the State of the Union speech to all the people following when I go, the President of the United States. And you see him walk down the steps, and he shook Congressman Barletta's hand and talked for like a minute, and then boom, right into the beast. And then they're like, come on, we gotta go. And then, we're all the way in the back, the press. So it's not like I wasn't like in the president's limo, I'm in the caboose. We're just in a van, and it's just amazing being on Interstate 81 in a big convoy of vehicles with not one other car around. That was really cool. And then I didn't get to see him at all behind the scenes, but after the speech was over, we were like I said, the final car. But then the Beast was parked right there because it's right by the entrance, the exit door to the arena. So we got to see him get in the Beast like really close, and the closest car.
And the Beast, did you nickname it the Beast?
No, that is the name. That is the name.
That's a thing?
The president's limo is called the Beast.
I don't know why I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know. Look it up after this.
I'm going to. I believe you. Not that I don't believe you, but
I think it's always the Beast. I don't even think it's just President Trump's. It's
just the Beast. It's not Trump's Beast. It's just the Beast. Mm-hmm. Interesting. I don't know why I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Jeez,
trivia. If you're ever on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you'd probably lose.
Well, if I'm ever on the show and they ask that question, I will have you to thank. I won't even have to phone you in.
I know.
I know the answer now. So what else? What else happened after that?
I don't know. I've done a lot of things. I went with the military, the 109th Field Artillery to Camp Shelby, Mississippi on military plane. You know, they took us there to watch them train for 3 days before they went to Iraq. I mean, if you want to ask me the most intense thing, intense, two of them, but the flood of 2011, I can't believe it's almost 10 years now.
Yeah, wow.
It's 9 years. That being so close to that water and even standing on like an idiot on the dike, like watching the water come, like it's only 3 feet from the top because that water could flush right underneath that dike, the earth. But that's what you do sometimes as a reporter, get close because you want to talk to the other idiots that are, well, I shouldn't be calling them idiots if I want to be an objective journalist. But all these people, these people that are
all the great journalists.
No, talking to the people that are just gawking at the water.
Oh, okay.
Like I was trying to get close to them to talk to them. I'm not
the non-journalists.
But the same thing. Like there's these right now. We have a hurricane going on. And these reporters are in the middle. They say evacuate, and these reporters are in the middle of the danger. So sometimes you get in the middle of danger. But the flood was just so intense because it was just days and days and days of it happening, it not devastating the valley. But some places did get devastated. Then visiting those places, so that was probably one of the most, memorable.
Yeah, and you said what was the word you used? Intense.
Mm-hmm.
Intense.
Absolutely. Because you never knew if that water breached the levee in Wilkes-Barre. I mean,
could have gone.
There's no. I don't know if this town could bounce back again within 40 years.
Yeah. I hope you would have been a strong swimmer.
I want. And another intense thing is there's one time there was a double shooting in Pitt. I think Avoca, a double shooting. So they're looking all over the town for the guy because he's on the loose. And then they're like, all the cop cars start racing the opposite way from where I was. So I'm like, what's going on? They're like, there's the guy with the gun on the middle of the street down there. So we're like, naturally, everyone runs this way. But for some reason, all the journalists run that way, towards the cops, with no protection, So I'm like ducking behind doors and behind cars, like behind storefronts. And then the cops get there. And it's just some old buck that was looking for the killer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't the killer.
Okay. So,
that was intense.
I was going to say, that kind of leads me to my next question is, what are some behind the scenes things that you do as a reporter like that, kind of putting yourself in harm's way to get the story? What is that like a regular thing? Like I don't think
there's been many instances like that intense because usually it's not so fluid. But I knocked on a lot of shady doors over the years, especially like,
so what
murder victims, or murder suspects, and it's the worst time in their lives.
And you show up at their house,
and you're looking for either the suspect. You're not going to find a suspect if the cops can't find him usually, but maybe you're going to talk to their ex-girlfriend.
Oh yeah, witness.
What kind of guy is this? And maybe he's there, have her kidnapped. You never know. So I knocked on a lot of shady doors and a lot of questionable neighborhoods.
So what was that like? Do people treat you like respectfully as a person of the press?
Yeah, most of the time I've never really had a lot of people like treat me bad ever, to be honest. It's been a lot of right now you're hearing a lot of fake news this, fake news that, but they're not really directing it at me. I've never really had any bad experiences. I always just try to be respectful of myself in all the work I do. So and one of my franchise absolutely is, besides being just personally, my franchise is being patriotic, but for the paper, my number one good thing I'm good at is writing about tragedy. Where there's people get murdered, soldiers killed at war, people died in the car crash. I'm naturally curious, and I put myself in those people's shoes, the families, and I want to know about that person because it's probably the last time the person's name is ever going to be uttered on earth. Last newspaper story ever about them because they're gone. And right from the beginning, I was good at it, but I don't know how. It was one, and I think the first one was, and I'm still great friends to this day with the mother. Like her daughter, she was the reigning Luzerne County Fair Queen and got stabbed in a random robbery like 50 times, and it was brutalized. And I had to go knock on her door and tell the girl's story. And she just thanked me so much how much I honored her daughter. And then, some of the most poignant things I've been through is like, you're watching the Vietnam veteran dad at his son's funeral, or the family when his body arrived. So, saying a prayer when the body arrived at the funeral home, or so yeah, that's like some really, you gotta have true compassion. I always say I'm good at it because I'm not a phony. I really care about these people.
Yeah, that's great. So, a little bit, not the back to the press pool, but you recently had the opportunity. Vice President Pence recently came to Exeter, and you had another opportunity to be part of the press pool. How'd that happen?
That one, the vice president's office asked us ahead of time. I didn't know I was going to do the Fox News thing. So this is two things. So the same thing. They just asked for someone that was interested. So I was part of the press pool at the airport that we met the vice president's plane, got in the motorcade, we're there for the speech. I was, but this one was way more important than the Trump one. When Trump came, I got to be part of the press pool motorcade to cover it. So I wrote a first person column about it for the Citizen's Voice the next day. So that was easy. I didn't have to actually cover the speech, everything he was talking about.
So when Pence came, it was more involved.
When Pence came the night before, the president, like the president of the White House Press Correspondents Association, like everyone who covers the vice president, or no, everyone who covers the White House for the whole country, said they didn't have a pool reporter. And the pool reporter is a person who writes up all the notes and sends it out to all the other media, and all the other media is allowed to use it, from the Times Leader to the New York Times. So you're doing it in real time. They want real time updates of what he's saying.
So you became that guy.
And I was the only one. I was for the entire world.
Wow.
So I was, I sent a couple of reports. It's like the vice president has landed. The vice president is in Pittston en route, because God forbid the beast hits a pothole or something. You never know.
Yeah. So it's got to be documented, right?
So yeah. Then vice president has arrived. Vice president started speaking. Vice president da da da. Then you finally get a couple of good quotes, because he obviously he's here in Joe Biden's hometown, so he went right after former Vice President Biden, Trump's opponent. So I had to do a couple quotes. He said something like, Joe Biden might have been born here, but it's Trump country now, which, as we saw in 2016, whether you like him or not, he dominated this area. So the vice president said that. So, I sent that report out. Then I sent a final report out. I had a lot of background about the last election and what the results were here. And Joe Biden, and we've had a slew of visits from candidates recently. So they're obviously taking this area seriously, all the candidates. Joe Biden's actually going to be here Thursday on a CNN town hall. So that was like, I don't know if an honor or a lifetime. It was a lot of work. And I mean, I don't know if no one... And it is honored. My work appeared in other places. I don't even know if it had my name on it, but that's not even the point. So I get done doing that, and I'm like, good. Now I have to not make an ass of myself on national TV.
Yeah. So Fox News was there also, and I forget the reporter's name, but you can tell me. And how the whole your appearance on Fox News, how did that happen?
So that earlier that day, I already had enough pressure being the pool reporter. And Fox News calls or emails our office and asks if any reporters want to be on the show with Brett. The special report with Brett Baer, it's called, on Fox News between the 6 and 7 hour. So, of course, my managing editor asked me, and I said, absolutely. So right after the speech was over, it was announced, and the speech was over about 5:20 p.m. So that means there was 40 minutes even before the show started. They told me, you're probably going to be on at the 6:40 hour, around there. So that's like 2 hours to wait, or hour and a half. And every single time I've ever been asked to do something like that, like breaking news that would bump me. I've never ever, it came through, like in my entire life. I was supposed to be on, I was supposed to be on MSNBC a couple months ago too. And same thing, I got bumped. And I was supposed to be like 6 a.m. So anyways, they take us over behind the Fox News set. And the people on Fox News treated like me and Dylan Fearon from Fox here, 56, like no better, no less than the vice president. Now he was only on there real quick, back on and back forth. But they did an interview with the vice president live at 6 o'clock on their show. And then there was no prep at all. Brett Baer wanted to wing it, I guess. He didn't talk about what questions they were going to ask. They didn't tell us what questions he was going to ask. No rehearsal.
And you switch seats with Pence,
yeah. So Vice President Pence gets off the stool they had for him, and they go, "Okay, guys, come on." Then he ran right out. So like no time to like even get too much of a glimpse of him. But there was at one point I stood like 3 feet away from him. So me and Dylan walk over and they put Dylan in the seat next to where Pence was. And they put me in the seat that the vice president just sat in. And I didn't even realize that. So like the next time I'm like, holy shit, I sat in the seat that the vice president sat in. I swear to God, that's when I felt like I was going to have a Marco Rubio moment. My mouth just started drying up and I was like getting dizzy. They're like, do you want a water? And I don't want to be like, I didn't want to be a diva. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I'm nervous, right? Yeah.
Or even just be a diva, like them having to do something for me, even though they have a whole staff to do it. So then Brett's like, just talk to me like you're talking to anyone else. And then I was like,
what was your goal for?
Well, I knew I wanted to, talk about what I thought of the election, but totally down the middle. I don't, I can't sound partisan, but I could sound intelligent, right?
Sure.
But also I told everyone all week or all morning that there's 3 things I'm going to say no matter what Brett Baer asked me. If Brett Baer asked me what I had for breakfast, I'm going to mention my grandfather, coal mines, and Nanny Coke. That's where I'm from. So my grandfather was a coal miner from Nanny Coke, and so that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
So he set me up perfectly, but not even knowing it. And I basically said, my grandfather, why Trump did well here is I go, my grandfather was a coal miner from this region, and the coal mines collapsed. And the coal barons that got rich off the backs of coal miners like my grandfather, and I'm paraphrasing, but they just abandoned the region, and people here for decades have been felt like they got left behind, and for some reason they could relate to Trump. I'm even probably stuttering more than I did then. I don't know how the hell I nailed that one, but
you did. Yeah, I saw it.
But it was obviously an honor of a lifetime. And I said it on Facebook later that day. I had millions of people around the world watching, and I waited for that moment my whole life, and then I couldn't screw it up, and I'm glad I didn't. Yeah,
you didn't. You got the Nanny Coke plug in there.
Yeah, that's
you did. So that kind of brings me to my next couple questions under topics. So earlier this year, you started the Nanny Coke newsroom.
Yeah.
What's up with that?
Okay. Well, obviously I live in Nanny Coke, so a good segue. So we got put on quarantine, like, what was it, March, I guess?
Yeah.
So like one day, like I just dressed like a bum, and I'm like, well, maybe I'll just point my video camera on me and just talk about what a journalist does all day. So for like 5 minutes, maybe even went longer, but I was wearing a white t-shirt, like a plain white t-shirt, slouched on my couch.
A V-neck, by the way.
Yeah, looking like a slob. And I'm just writing about, I guess this is what you do when you work from home. And I was just all talking about what I did all day at work. And then all my buddies started busting my balls when I put it on YouTube. And like, why were you dressed like an idiot? Couldn't you at least like put on a nice shirt? So the next day I went up in my room, my office, where I have a big giant United States flag. I stood by it, and I was wearing a suit, my red, white, and blue attire, my blue blazer and my red suit. And I said, all you knuckleheads, stop busting my butt, blah, blah, blah. So then I started thinking, a lot of people are probably, after a couple days, I'm like, there can't be that many people that care every minutia thing I do all day. Why don't I kind of try to make this a comedy show? And that's what it morphed into. Like, I mean, it's I called it real fake news because it wasn't about real topics, but I just came up with a lot of funny slogans like "Stay safe out there" to close it. Or I started the next door neighboring town to us is Glen Line, and in Newport Township. So there's always been a rivalry between Nanticoke and Newport, like going
People
back
of
forever.
Glen Line.
Yeah, so I'd always just make a little joke that Nanticoke people are more sophisticated than Glen Line. But it was the thing was I worked till like 6:30 every day, and then my first couple episodes were getting up at 10 o'clock, and I'm like, it's a little too late. I got to get these up earlier. I just started working so much harder. It was 6:30, and then I had to show prep, and I needed to get on air by 7 p.m. was my goal every day.
And so you film these videos and just put them on YouTube, right?
Yep.
On your YouTube channel.
Yep. So I was editing like a madman in Final Cut Pro every night. And then sometimes, it just takes forever to save, takes forever to load. But it's, I mean, they were getting, I said if I was going to not continue to do the show if I got like 10 views the first week or so. But I started getting hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And the first one that really, I think, put me on the map and everyone started wanting to watch is like someone posted on Facebook that a guy that was at the Burger King drive-thru in Nanticoke riding lawnmower.
I remember this.
I go, that one really had made it a comedy show. I'm like, but it's all this stuff that was in Nanticoke, but a guy that was on a riding lawnmower at Burger King.
And it went viral.
Like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. And people started watching. And the thing was, you have a captive audience. Then there's no sports going on, nothing live. So people were starting to watch. And I built up a franchise. And then people were sending me stuff to my house like I was Dave Portnoy. I'm like,
I remember seeing you were getting all kinds of stuff with like little letters cut out and you know who it's from. And you have a co-host too, right? Jack the cat.
Yeah. I used to hate cats, not especially before Jack, but I used to hate cats. Then I didn't really like cats and I never had a cat because I sort of was allergic to them and I thought they were mean all the time. And she's told me she trained this cat like a dog. And literally, I used to go to the Nanticoke newsroom and the cat would jump on the desk and he'd wander around the desk. And then, but every time, he would just do it almost every time. So I'm like, okay, everyone's starting to love this cat.
He's part of the show.
Yeah. So every night after that, I go, come on, ready, Freddie? And he would be there even earlier. But then instead of wandering around, he would just sit right next to me like he was the co-host.
You should have brought him today.
I know. I should have. I didn't even think you were going to ask me that. I would have.
Yeah.
I take him in the car with me too, and he looks out like a dog.
Yeah, that's really cool. So you're doing a little bit of that. You're talking about Nanticoke. I have to ask, what is a jukie?
It's a great question, a jukie. Or a juke, but
juke for sure.
The thing is, when I post that, I think there's a lot of people that think I'm making a racial or ethnic slur. It's not. I used it the other day, and I'll have to give you a couple of examples what a juke is.
Yep, that's fine.
Because I used it the other day, and I said, they asked me why I didn't use the word on national TV with Brett Baer, and I go, because people would probably think it's a racial, ethnic, or religious slur, and it's not. I said it's an anti-Nanticoke slur, I guess, but also a beacon of pride. Stuff that people from Nanticoke or Newport would do. And there's really nobody around besides my town knows what the heck the word is. Because it's just an exclusively unique word, I guess, to Nanticoke. So by the way, I lived in Hanover growing up. So I was like one town away. So I've always known the name Jukie and I've heard it. And I didn't really know a whole lot of people from Nanticoke, just a few. But yeah, so Jukie has came up, over the years for me, obviously. Do you consider yourself a Jukie? Sometimes, I do some Jukie things, and this is one thing I did the other day, and I put it on Facebook, and I went nuts. So this is how jukey I am. After my dryer broke down like 2 years ago, my friends posted, I have a dryer for sale, and so I bought it off our used dryer, and it's been unreliable a couple times. It's broken down. I got it fixed. Then a piece broke off recently and it was ripping up my clothes. But for like 3 weeks straight, I was just letting it rip up my clothes and didn't even get a new one. But then it finally died the other day. So, and I kept the old dryer. So I finally go and buy a new dryer, brand new one. So there's 2 dryers. After the one arrives, I have 2 dryers in my basement. And I go, I'm just going to throw them on my front lawn and see if someone takes them.
And you consider that a jukey move?
Well, that's a juke move, definitely.
Okay, juke move.
So then so I put them out there, and the next morning, someone took all 4 knobs off the dryers and left the dryers.
So that's also a juke move.
I went and posted on Facebook. I go, in a total juke move last night, I threw 2 dryers on my front lawn, and I go, and an even bigger juke move is someone took the knobs and left the dryers. That's who need knob dryers.
Yeah, like what's the point of that?
Dryer knobs.
Yeah, what's the point of that?
But then obviously some scrapper probably didn't even care about the knobs
and just took
the thing for metal and probably made $5 off them.
Yeah, totally worth it.
So Bill, it's on Urban Dictionary. It says common slang in northeastern Pennsylvania, primarily in Nanticoke. A lower class white person who has indoor furniture, typically a recliner on their front porch, that they commonly use for 12 hours a day to oversee neighborhood happenings. They are usually old, with poor hygiene, smoking cheap cigarettes, drinking beer, or bottom shelf liquor, and residing in Nanticoke.
Do you know who put that on there?
It says Mayor Layton.
I obviously don't think Mayor Layton put that on there, but yeah, hey, it's on Urban Dictionary, so it must be real, right? Uh-huh. Yeah. Well, good. Thanks for sharing. I'm glad we cleared that up because, like I said, I've known the term, if you want to call it, most of my life, and I see you sharing it every now and again on Facebook, and I had to solve the debate. So yeah. So what is your favorite thing about NEPA?
Well, I think I told you before, I wanted to get the heck out of here. I always thought I always thought I was too good for this place. And this job helped me fall back in love with the people here, how good they are. I love like there not being any traffic. Generally, I mean, people bitch sometimes when there's a little traffic, but I like, obviously the food here, affordability of the area, the media, the really strong media market, since that's right up my alley, strong media market.
Nanticoke.
Yeah, of course. It's like, I live in a town with 10,000 of my best friends.
The people of Glen Lyon, as you say. Right?
Well, no, they're
like the neighbors.
Next door. They're the neighbors
that
that we love-hate relationship.
Okay. Are they Jukies?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I took someone on a 2-hour drive of Glen Lyon the other day, or a couple weeks ago. We laughed the whole time.
Nice.
We saw a snowmobile in one person's front yard.
Like just last week?
A couple weeks ago.
Were they riding it or was it just parked? Just parked. No snow.
Want to hear a funny story about Glen Lyon? So a couple of years ago, the police chief drove his cruiser and smashed into a house. I don't know, accident. Accident, definitely. So the media obviously went down there, and this is a story that was recalled to me, but it was from a WNEP photographer, and he goes, by the time I got down there, the car was gone. So, and I guess they didn't have an exact address or around it. So he calls his news director and goes, I can't find the house. He goes, it's the house with the car smashed into it. That just smashed into it. And the photographer goes, every house on the street looks like a car smashed into it.
So that's Glen Lyon.
A little bit.
Yeah. Just part of it. Yeah.
A lot of it.
A lot of it. So how can our listeners that are listening right now learn more about you in the Nanticoke newsroom? You have your YouTube channel and you have a website also?
Yeah, I have a YouTube channel, YouTube/Bob Kalinowski, BobKalinowski. I have a very rudimentary website, but it's mostly just a resume site. So
there's a lot of good content on there though.
Yeah, but I I wish I could do more like breaking news or flashier things or put ads on there one day.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's bobcal.com, BOBKAL.com. That's my
So you've also, if anyone wants to learn some more about some of the some of the things that you've covered throughout your career, some of the great stories that you've written, they're all on there, right?
Yep. Yeah. So I put a lot of some of the most prominent things on there, and then I have they call it a blog section, but my most recent stories that I think are the most interesting, I throw those on the blog part of it too. But it's like I said, it's simple, but it was simple for me to do without learning coding or even WordPress. I didn't even like that much. I don't know if you're a big fan of WordPress. I wasn't. Yeah. Maybe I could get good at it, but this is just drag and drop essentially.
Yeah, well, that's good. So bobcal.com. So that about wraps it up today, Bob, on the Stacks podcast, Citizens Voice, and the Nanny Coke newsroom. Bob, thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Bill. My honor.
If you'd like to learn more about the On the Stacks podcast, be sure to search the hashtag On the Stacks on Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. We'll catch you next time on the Stacks.